Imagine you're walking through a quiet garden one morning and something catches your eye. Maybe it's the shape of two flowers that suddenly looks like a pair of eyes, or a tree branch that seems to form the outline of a face. You look again, and for a moment you're almost certain you saw something there. Then you realize there was never a face, just flowers, branches, shadows, and your brain putting them together. And here's the strange part. This isn't your imagination being bad at seeing. Your brain is actually doing something incredibly useful. It's constantly searching the world for patterns, connections, and meaning. Most of the time, that ability helps you understand what's happening around you. But sometimes, it finds a pattern even when there isn't one. Today, we're going to find out why. Let's start with something simple. Look around you right now and find an ordinary object. A wall socket, a window, a chair, a building, a tree, anything. Now look at it for a second longer than usual. Does it have anything that resembles a face? Maybe two dark shapes that look like eyes, and something underneath that could almost be a mouth. If you saw one, you just experienced something called face pareidolia. It's the tendency to perceive a face where there isn't actually a face, and it's surprisingly common. Researchers have found that face-like objects can activate parts of the visual system involved in face processing, even though the object itself isn't a human face. So if you've ever seen a face in a cloud, a piece of toast, a car, or even the front of a building, your brain wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing what it is remarkably good at: finding faces. But faces are only the beginning. Your brain doesn't just search for faces. It is constantly trying to organize information into patterns. Give it a collection of scattered points, and you may automatically group some of them together. Give it a series of unrelated events, and you may start wondering whether they are connected. Sometimes that ability is exactly what we need. Patterns help us recognize familiar places, understand language, predict what might happen next, learn from experience, and make sense of a complicated world. The problem is that the brain doesn't always get a clear signal saying, yes, this pattern is real. Sometimes it has to make its best guess. And sometimes the guess is wrong. So why does your brain keep doing this? Why not simply look at a random collection of shapes and leave them alone? Because detecting patterns is useful. If your brain can quickly notice that certain things tend to occur together, it can use that information to make predictions. A rustle in the bushes might be nothing, or it might be something important. A familiar expression might tell you how someone feels. A repeated sound might tell you that something is approaching. In a world where you rarely have complete information, waiting for absolute certainty isn't always practical. Your brain has to work with clues. It has to estimate. It has to connect pieces. And that means sometimes it will find a meaningful pattern, even when the world only gave it noise. And that's where things get really interesting. Okay, let's actually test this. Look at the screen for a moment. Don't try too hard to solve anything. Just notice what your brain does naturally. Do you see a shape hiding in the dots? Maybe you see an animal. Maybe a face. Maybe nothing at all. And if you suddenly noticed a shape, here's the interesting part. The dots themselves didn't change. Your brain simply organized them differently. Now look again. Does the pattern still feel obvious? Or did it disappear? This is one of the strange things about perception. Sometimes the information coming into your eyes stays exactly the same, while your experience of that information changes. Your brain isn't simply receiving the world. It's interpreting it. Now, let's make it a little harder. Imagine you're looking at a wall covered with completely ordinary shapes. Circles, lines, shadows, leaves, cracks in the stone. Your brain doesn't treat every shape as equally important. It groups things together. It searches for symmetry. It looks for familiar forms. And when enough pieces seem to fit, a recognizable object can suddenly appear. That's incredibly useful. Without this ability, the world would be an overwhelming collection of disconnected colors, sounds, edges, and movements. Pattern detection helps turn all of that information into something understandable. But there's a catch. Your brain doesn't wait until it has perfect evidence. It often makes a fast interpretation first and lets you refine it afterward. Here's another one. Look at a sequence and try to guess what comes next. Your brain will almost immediately start searching for a rule. Maybe the shapes are repeating. Maybe they're changing size. Maybe the colors are alternating. Maybe there's some hidden order. And once you think you found the rule, the next step suddenly feels predictable. But here's the trick. If I don't give you enough information, more than one pattern might fit. Your brain can still choose the explanation that feels most convincing. That doesn't mean your brain is being irrational. It's doing something incredibly efficient. It's using the information it has to make the best prediction it can. The problem is that the best prediction isn't always the correct one. And this doesn't only happen with things we see. We can also find patterns in events. You think about someone, and they suddenly message you. You wear a certain outfit, and something unusually good happens. You notice the same number several times in one day. Or you hear the same song in 3 different places. The events may genuinely have happened, but your brain naturally asks, is there a connection? Sometimes there is. Sometimes there isn't. And this is where pattern detection becomes especially interesting, because our minds are very good at noticing coincidences. Once something catches our attention, we become much more likely to notice it again. Suddenly, the pattern seems to be everywhere. Now let's take that idea one step further. Imagine you notice 3 unusual coincidences in the same day. You think about an old friend, and they message you. You hear a song you haven't heard in years, and then you see it mentioned again later. You notice the same number several times. Individually, none of these things has to mean anything. But once you put them together, your mind may start whispering, wait, is there a pattern here? That feeling has a name that psychologists use. Apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections or patterns in things that may actually be unrelated. And before that sounds like something your brain should be ashamed of, there's an important distinction. Finding patterns isn't the problem. Pattern detection is one of the things brains are exceptionally good at. The interesting question is what happens when a pattern feels meaningful before we have enough evidence to know whether the connection is real. Here's where something even more interesting happens. Once a pattern becomes important to you, you may start noticing examples of it everywhere. Think about learning a new word. Before you learned it, you probably weren't aware of how often it appeared. But after someone points it out, suddenly you seem to hear it everywhere. Or imagine buying a particular car. Suddenly, that same model seems to be on every road. The world probably didn't suddenly fill with that thing. Your attention simply became more sensitive to it. And once something matters to you, your brain has more reason to notice it. That's useful. But it can also create a strange illusion. The more examples you notice, the stronger the pattern can feel. And the examples you don't notice don't get counted nearly as easily. Now imagine looking at a sky full of stars. You can connect certain stars and see a shape. A hunter, a bear, a scorpion. But the stars themselves aren't drawing those pictures. We are connecting them. The same collection of points can produce different interpretations depending on which ones we group together. That's an important clue about perception. A pattern can feel obvious once you've seen it, even though other interpretations were possible all along. Our minds aren't just asking, what's here? They're also asking, what does this remind me of? And that means perception isn't only about the information reaching your senses. It's also about what your mind already knows. This is why expectations can matter too. If I tell you that an image contains a face, you may start searching for facial features. If I tell you that it contains an animal, you may begin looking for ears, legs, or a familiar silhouette. The information on the screen hasn't necessarily changed, but you've changed what you're looking for. This is one reason perception isn't simply a camera recording reality. Your brain has to interpret incomplete and sometimes ambiguous information. It uses the clues available in front of you, along with what you've learned before, to arrive at an interpretation. Usually, that works beautifully. But when the evidence is ambiguous, different interpretations can compete. And sometimes the first interpretation that feels convincing wins. Here's where our pattern-seeking ability can become misleading. Imagine you try something once and it works. Maybe you use a particular pen before an important exam and you get a great result. You use it again and things go well again. Your brain notices the coincidence. Soon, that pen starts to feel special. But there is a question hiding underneath the pattern. What happened on the occasions when you used the pen and nothing particularly good happened? Those moments are easy to overlook. When we already have an explanation we like, evidence that fits can feel especially noticeable, while evidence that doesn't fit can become easier to dismiss. That's one reason confirmation bias matters. It doesn't mean we're deliberately lying to ourselves. It means our minds can become better at noticing information that supports an interpretation we've already started to believe. Now imagine you've already chosen your pattern. You believe one thing causes another. Your brain naturally starts looking for evidence that confirms it. And every time the expected thing happens, the connection feels stronger. But what if the other evidence isn't being given equal attention? This is one reason good reasoning often requires something surprisingly simple. Actively looking for information that could prove our idea wrong. Not because every belief we have is wrong. Not because we should distrust every instinct. But because a pattern becomes much more convincing when it survives attempts to challenge it. A coincidence can be interesting. A repeated observation can be a clue. But a convincing explanation needs more than two things happening near each other. So maybe the lesson isn't that you should stop looking for patterns. Quite the opposite. Pattern detection is part of what allows us to learn, recognize, predict, create, and make sense of an incredibly complicated world. The goal isn't to silence that instinct. It's to become a little more curious about it. When you notice a pattern, you can ask yourself, what exactly am I seeing? What else could explain it? Am I noticing the examples that fit while overlooking the ones that don't? And if I changed the way I looked at this, would the pattern still be there? You don't have to destroy the pattern. Just give yourself enough distance to examine it. Because sometimes the pattern is real. Sometimes your brain simply found one. And sometimes the most interesting answer is that you don't know yet. And perhaps that's the beautiful part. Our brains are pattern-seeking because the world is full of patterns worth discovering. The same ability that lets us see a face in a cloud can help us recognize a familiar person. The same mind that connects unrelated events can also discover genuine relationships through learning and experience. The difference isn't whether your brain searches for patterns. It always will. The difference is what you do after you find one. You can accept it immediately, or stay curious long enough to ask whether the evidence supports it. Because sometimes the pattern isn't there, and sometimes it was there all along. You just needed to step back far enough to see it. Understanding your mind doesn't mean assuming every pattern you notice is true. It means becoming curious enough to question what you see, while remaining open to what you might discover. If you enjoyed today's psychology drop, leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who'd enjoy learning more about the fascinating ways our minds work. Until next time, stay curious.